Dear civil service students, I am going to give you a brief analysis of today's essay paper. I hope this will give you some idea of how you have attempted, and this will also help other students who are going to prepare for the future to plan their preparation. I am not going to go into details and write essays, but I am just going to give an idea of what, in my opinion, should have been the main thrust in each of the essays. So let us start with the first topic. Wisdom finds truth. Generally, we believe that it is intelligence that finds truth. It is the scientist working in his laboratory who discovers scientific truths. It is the intelligent and skillful investigator who finds the truth about a crime. It is the technically trained explorer who finds out the truth about the unknown. So when we read the title of this essay, it tends to shake our usual perceptions about how truth is discovered. But when we think a little deeply, we understand the implications of what the title says. Socrates, who is believed to have been one of the wisest men, said, "I know that I know nothing." This is the great quality of wisdom. It makes you aware of the limits of your knowledge, and that awareness eggs you on to learn, explore, and discover. We must understand the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence is focused, pointed at certain objects and goals, and hence provides a tunnel vision. Wisdom, on the other hand, is comprehensive. Intelligence is exclusive, wisdom is inclusive. Intelligence is analytical, wisdom is synthetic. Therefore, while intelligence helps us find individual truths, wisdom takes us deeper into the overall reality. So you would have noticed that the first essay is somewhat abstract and philosophical, but this type of philosophical and abstract essay is sometimes better to attempt because very few people attempt such essays, and therefore you distinguish yourself by attempting such a challenging topic. Now let us take up the second topic. Values are not what humanity is, but what humanity ought to be. This is a relatively simple topic. What we need to focus in this essay is that man has evolved from animals. So that is what he essentially is. That is, deprived of all culture, man is essentially an animal. So if you look at it, today's man is essentially the same as the man of thousands of years ago who lived in a jungle. What is it that differentiates us from them? What differentiates is the culture and the value system that we have developed. So what you need to do in this essay is to build upon this theme of how culture and cultural values lift man from the domain of animals and puts him on the high pedestal of a human being. So relatively easy essay. You could easily develop it by talking about how the modern society exists on the foundations of values, and wherever the values have collapsed, the society has collapsed. You could give a number of examples. Now let's go to the third topic. Best for an individual is not necessarily best for the society. Again, a relatively simple topic. The topic can be handled by bringing in Rousseau's idea of the social contract, according to which a human being makes adjustments in society for the common good. One can emphasize how the interests of the individuals living in a society clash, and how one has to sacrifice self-interest for the sake of the smooth functioning of society. You could give a number of examples to prove this. What distinguishes the civilized man of today from the man in the jungle thousands of years ago is the subordination of his instincts to the rules of the society. One can give examples from real life to illustrate the point. So we see that the second and the third topic are essentially the same. That is how civilization, culture, cultural values, they have changed society, and living in a society, we have to follow these cultural values, we have to make sacrifices for the sake of others, we have to follow rules. So essentially the same topic. Now let's go to the next one. Courage to accept and dedication to improve are two keys to success. Courage to accept refers to acceptance of failure, and dedication to improve emphasizes the truth that progress is incremental, not sudden. Taking these two as the two focus points, one can develop the essay by giving examples of how successful persons and organizations build successes upon failures. While for the courage to accept theme, one has to emphasize perseverance and patience, for the dedication to improve theme, one has to emphasize discipline, hard work, and skill acquisition. So this was again a simple and straightforward essay, just on patience, perseverance, dedication, hard work, discipline. So something that we have been writing right from the days of our school. Nothing very difficult. Let's go to the next one now. South Asian societies are woven not around the state but around their plural cultures and plural identities. The topic relates to the diversity of the South Asian societies. Because of this diversity, the bonds within a community are stronger than a sense of nationhood. It was the advent of the British that created a vague sense of the Indian nation among us. But in spite of this, in many respects, the reactions of the masses are still divided along lines of caste, religion, linguistic groups, etc. Even in election, it is the caste, religion and regional politics that comes to the fore. The same thing can be said about the neighboring countries. In Pakistan too, the Pakhtuns, the Balochis, the Punjabis, etc. react as regional and racial groups rather than as a nation. In Sri Lanka, there are divisions among the Tamils and Sinhalese. There are also divisions among Buddhists, Christians, Hindus and Muslims. So you can easily develop this topic by focusing on the diversity of Asian societies and by highlighting how these societies tend to react as groups rather than as a nation. Another aspect would be to highlight how in rural areas the people seek help of the community leaders rather than the state agencies. One can mention Khap Panchayats as an example. So friends, this topic was also relatively easy and simple. Just talk about diversity, talk about how our society in the South Asian countries is organized along groups. You could talk about hierarchical organization in terms of castes. You could talk about linguistic groups. You could talk about even the agitations which have been organized along caste or linguistic lines. So there is a lot that could be written in order to indicate that people react as groups rather than as one national mass. That's essentially what the topic says. The next topic is neglect of primary health care and education in India are reasons for its backwardness. Here, the focus is on two factors, neglect of primary health care and neglect of education. Also, these two must be connected to backwardness. It is not difficult. Bad health reduces the work potential of the people. Lack of education prevents the use of our demographic dividend. While health care has been qualified as primary health care, neither primary or school education or higher education is specifically mentioned. So one would have to make the discussion inclusive of all levels. One must emphasize how we are poor in research and development. This topic is not difficult, but we could make a few mistakes here. One mistake we could make is that we could talk a lot about primary health and education and not connect it with backwardness. So that mistake you should not make, because the topic says that these are the factors that have resulted in backwardness. So at every step we must show how these factors have resulted in backwardness. That's very important. Okay, let's take up the next topic now. Biased media is a real threat to Indian democracy. This topic is tricky. It presumes that the Indian media, or at least some of it, is biased. Had the topic been general of the type, biased media is a threat to a democracy, one could boldly go forward and decry biased media. But here it is with reference to India. A better approach will be to first make general statements about how biased media can damage a democracy. Then one can take the stand that by and large Indian media are objective, but this is not across the spectrum. After this, one can make a few general statements of how some media houses tend to stick to a specific line. Also, one can talk specifically of the regional channels, some of which are owned by political parties and blatantly take a party stand. The best thing would be to end the essay on a positive note and say that in spite of some biased reporting, the Indian viewers are too mature now to be swayed by biased media. In the course of the discussion, one can also talk of the compulsions of a media house that must maintain adequate TRP to keep the channel running. The question on biased media has a lot of potential. You can write quite a lot, but you should also make your comments such that you don't begin to become vitriolic, because many of us in fact feel terribly irked by some of the reporting. We feel that in the TV channels, some of the TV channels at least tend to take a very, very pro or anti stand. But in an essay in civil services examination, I would suggest that you should be more balanced, because that is what is appreciated in a bureaucrat. So when you are talking about the problems of bias, you should try to be very mild and very subtle in whatever you say. So I think the line that I suggested should work well. Now let's go to the last topic, which is also very important and not difficult to attempt. Let's see. Rise of artificial intelligence, the threat of jobless future or better job opportunities through reskilling and upskilling. Although this topic gives a choice, the better option would be to support artificial intelligence. The thrust of the argument should be the world of science is only beginning to open up. There is a lot that needs to be done, and artificial intelligence will play a crucial role. One need not think only of the use of artificial intelligence and robotics in the context of manufacturing industry. Artificial intelligence will increase the speed of growth of scientific and technological knowledge. Artificial intelligence can play a role in spread of education and research. You can go on counting the advantages of artificial intelligence. So this topic I think is one of the easiest. I'm sure most of you would have already studied a lot about artificial intelligence and its role in future. So I don't think the paper was tough. It was a fairly simple and easy paper, except the first topic, which was slightly tricky, because when you try to connect truth only with wisdom, you have to go back to the philosophical times. In today's age of science, to give an impression as if wisdom and truth are directly connected would sound a little far-fetched, and perhaps you could also take the counter stand and say that you don't believe in this, you don't agree with this. And there was a time when wisdom was more important, because at that time scientific progress had not taken place. But in today's world, truth is much more easily verified through science. This is a stand which also you could take. Whichever way you have done, whatever you have done, I am sure you have done well. Now, for your other papers, if you need any help, if you want me to discuss any topics, please send me a mail or give me a ring. And if you want to join my training, then again you can contact me. I am very shortly going to start focusing on the prelims now. So it will be good if you are planning to join, you can join. Especially, I advise people who are working to join my course because I am able to give them training without disturbing their office work. So I plan my work in such a way that they virtually have to do no study on their own. Almost entire thing is on me. So I also suggest to people, I always recommend that youngsters should take up a job because this is a very tricky exam and one cannot be 100% sure of success. And I have seen many youngsters who after repeated attempts get into some sort of a blind alley and they do not know what to do. So I would suggest you join a job, join my training, and I will make it sure that your preparation is better than that of those who have sat at home and prepared. All the best. Thank you.